Hello and welcome. My name is Trismegistus, and recently I was lucky enough to be invited to a LAN party hosted by Wilby to play the upcoming Space Age expansion for Factorio. Every day I recorded a short blog, well, short for me, in which I recorded my raw impressions, feelings and thoughts about the expansion. This video is a collection of those blogs, but I do need to give you a little bit of context before we start. First off, about the event itself. Space Age LAN Party format. The event was held over 5 days in Prague. Around 100 content creators, modders, key community members, friends and family were invited. As you've seen in Friday Facts 427, yes, that's me in the bottom left, we were organised into teams that all sat together on group tables. Each table had an assigned server, 10 in total I think, but the numbers of the servers didn't seem to match this, so there may have been more. And if you wanted to play multiplayer, then that was your assumed server. However, they were clear that if you just wanted to do single player instead, or as well, then you could do that. They also said that if you wanted to jump across to other servers, then you could do that as well, that was fine. And you're also free to pop across to other servers just to see what was going on, to see how their game was going and what they were doing. Several other devs actually did this, hopping between servers, but many of them also played as part of a single team. We had 2 devs on our team in the room and a third that was playing remotely. I guess for full transparency, I didn't have to pay anything to attend the event. There was no admittance fee or anything like that, and Wilby also provided lunches and dinners, as well as free snacks and drinks. However, I did have to pay for my own travel and accommodation. There was a hotel right next to the venue, so I stayed there, and I think quite a lot of the attendees also stayed at the hotel. We also got a gift bag, and this included a really high quality tote bag, a water bottle. Now this one was slightly in their own self-interest as they didn't want anyone spilling food or drink in the event hall, a large coffee mug, and I also got a 3D printed Wriggler, which is both cool and gross. Troopin was hosting the event and did an excellent job, though I think he was also playing in one of the servers as well. He also kind of trolled us all by gifting us a pillow. If you've watched any of his stuff, then you'll kind of get what that's about. It was a troll because it was incredibly difficult to fit this pillow into my already overstuffed suitcase, and I imagine it was the same for everybody else. It was quite a regimented event, mainly to try to stop us behaving sort of too unhealthily, as well as to keep things reasonable for the devs, not to have them working ridiculous hours. And most of the devs did seem to be there, and also obviously it would help out the workers at the actual conference centre because they wouldn't have to do ridiculous hours either. What I mean by regimented is the building was only open in a sort of fixed window, and the servers were only turned on and turned off in a window as well. The servers were also shut off for a lunch period and a dinner period in order to ensure that we could take a break. I say this therefore forced everyone to take a break, well, I guess ish. You could also technically have started a single player game and kind of played that during those breaks, but I think the vast majority of people did take the opportunity to take a break, and I think that was really good. That was a good way of doing it to stop us all from kind of overdoing it, although they did actually add in an extra hour from the third day. We also organised some guided tours, one of which I did go on, and there were also some talks and a question and answer session on one of the days. These were aligned with the day where some of the attendees could only attend for one day, and they attended on that day, and that's when the talks and the Q&A happened. For this, there was a stage set up at the front where they did the talks and the Q&A, but they also did little pre-show and post-show sort of events, which was mainly Troopin kind of hosting those, ensuring that the Q&A happened and that people's questions got asked and answered. Wilby provided the PCs, the Alienware ones you've seen on the desks, as well as all the kit to play, including headphones and keyboard, mouse, the monitor obviously. However, I did actually bring my own vertical mouse because I have carpal tunnel and I use a vertical mouse to help me with controlling that. And they were totally fine with me plugging that in and using that. Overall, the event ran like clockwork. I made a comment that it was as well automated and managed as a well-built factory in the game itself. And I think if Wilby wanted to do a sort of a QuakeCon but focused on Factorio, then I think that would be a rip-roaring success because it's incredibly well organised and well run and well done. Okay, so that's all the details I wanted to cover about the event itself. There are 2 final things I did want to mention before we get to the blogs. Raw impressions. Firstly, I really need to emphasise that these are my raw impressions, and I've not really filtered them or in any way during this edit, although I have taken some things out that I realised were spoilers, and I may use that footage in later videos once the embargo has passed. I do go on a bit of a journey with how I felt across the event, so kind of don't take my first impressions as kind of how I ended up after the event was done. However, it is a long video, but then it's one of my videos, kind of what do you expect really. I also wasn't sure when I was recording the little blogs whether I was going to do them separately, do 5 separate videos, or whether I was going to stick them all together, which is obviously what I've actually done. So in each one there is a hello and welcome. So don't be disconcerted by that. I also couldn't get some of my gear to work, and the actual lighting in the hotel room was atrocious, like really bad, and of course I was doing it at night, so I couldn't use natural lighting. So my apologies for the audio and video quality. Hopefully you can kind of see past that. Gameplay impressions. Secondly, a lot of this is actually about the event itself, rather than the gameplay or the expansion content. If you're only really interested in that expansion content, then the timestamps on the screen are where I talk more about the expansion. Because of that, my plan is to do a follow-up video that is more scripted, where I talk a bit about the gameplay itself in more detail, focus on the different planets and what I actually experienced, to the extent that I can for the embargo. Wilby also has provided some B-roll, which I do sprinkle in here, but I'll be making more use of that during the actual analysis video, so I'm afraid this is mostly just my big face talking at you. Okay, enough with the preamble, let's get on with it, shall we? Space Age LAN Party, Day 1. Hello and welcome, my name is Trismegistus, and today I got to play Space Age. I'm just recording this very quickly. I'm going to do a very, very quick post after every day. Basically, I'm at the LAN party. The sound quality on this is going to be atrocious because I can't get my little USB microphone to work. So it'll be either the echoey desktop audio or the echoey camera audio. So apologies for that. But the headline is that, as I say, I've been playing Space Age today. We're at a LAN party. There are 100 or so invited guests at the LAN party. You will have seen the Friday Facts that's come out, so I'm not spoiling anything here. This, they've told you all of this kind of themselves. It's just really just to say that I'm one of them. Basically, I got reached out to by one of the devs, essentially because they like the videos, they like the speculation that I do. You might have noticed, and it's been one of those slightly strange things today, I would say. Slightly surreal moment, or multiple surreal moments, that quite a few of the devs, or a reasonable number of the devs, do watch some of my videos, particularly when they've written the Friday Facts. Yeah, so I had several occasions where there were quite a few, I was chatting to quite a few of the devs. I'm not the most erudite and sociable person, so to really take the best advantage of that, but yeah, it was lovely to see people. They've done an amazing job, I would say. I can't tell you about content of the game, basically, unless it's been in a Friday Facts and that sort of thing. Obviously, the big thing with this is that my speculation is no longer speculation, so I can't do that part of the videos. What I can instead do is kind of give you my thoughts of what's being talked about, and we can obviously delve back into the archive, and I can give you some kind of context on those. But I'm not going to talk about kind of system mechanics that you've not already seen. So there's not going to be any spoilers for the game. You could probably guess that at some point in the future there will be an embargo that lifts and lots of content will come out. I'll talk about that closer to the time. But yeah. I guess the other point, therefore, is if you could not ask me any questions, I'm basically just not going to answer them. That's how I'm going to approach this, which is odd because I do like to engage and answer to the comments. But yeah, I can give you my thoughts, my reactions, my feelings. So, for example, I can tell you which planet I like the most. One of the caveats I would say is, and I don't think this is any kind of spoiler because we kind of knew this. From the get-go, from when they've been talking about it, it is a big expansion and there's a lot in it. So I will not have, reactions on everything. Yeah, and I suppose fundamentally, there are planets that we know nothing about from the Friday Facts. Maybe the odd hint in that. So I'm not really revealing any mechanics on those, but I might tell you whether I like those planets. I say there are some slight caveats in that. I say it's really big. and therefore I may well not have been to the planet. We are in a LAN, it's a LAN party. There's lots of people playing on lots of planets, and so I'm sure you'll get other, YouTuber reactions. Yes, there are other YouTubers and streamers and all that here, as well as the people you might expect that the devs would invite. So yeah, I'm sure you'll get lots of content. First day impressions. I guess to talk more about what I actually did on the first day and my reaction to it, as I say, most importantly. Basically, we are in the first part of the game still. We've made really good progress, and the team is kind of not working to a consistent action plan, if that makes sense. So there's no real grand plan of what we're doing, which is fine in and of itself, but as you've seen from my playthroughs, I tend to have a little bit more of a structured approach, shall we say, and particularly the version 1 series that's going on, in the live streams and the VODs that have been going live while I've been away. There's a very specific reason, as you can now tell, for why I was putting those VODs live in the farewell to version 1, because that is my farewell to version 1. And so yeah, so it's not been quite as structured as I would probably normally approach it, given that it is pretty much vanilla. There's not been a great deal, I would say, apart from a lot of quality life improvements that you've already seen in the Friday Facts, and in terms of red science, green science, blue science, pretty much kind of what you'd expect. But as I say, we've kind of just reached the point at the end of day 1 where we're getting into the new stuff. And so my reaction to that, I'll be honest, there's been some friction in a sense. There have been some tweaks that I will probably de-tweak. I can't really explain what they are. There is a lot of customizability, as there always has been in Factorio, in how you play it and like what settings you have and those sorts of things. But in terms of like default menus, not necessarily planet settings or anything like that, but how the game is configured for you. And I kind of haven't wanted to delve in and customize it to myself and how I like to play, if that makes sense. So certain things that I turn off or on and what have you, I didn't want to spend like an hour doing that when I could dive straight in. So there are some things that have been tweaked as like the default settings that I would like to tweak away, maybe back to what it used to be. But as I say, I've not really done that in this first thing. I might have to, because they're slightly winding me up. And a lot of it, let's put it, it's probably like muscle memory related things, if that makes sense. So things that I naturally do just because I've done it that way a million times, and it's a little difficult not to do it that way and remember that there's been a change. I hope that's sort of giving you a clue what I'm talking about, but remaining cryptic and not kind of giving anything away. We are talking about such minor things though, as it's literally just because I've been playing this game for 4,000 hours, and you just get into, let's say, muscle memory and habits and ways of doing things that aren't quite there. The other thing I would say, it is still a beta, so anything I do talk about is subject to change. There's not necessarily a guarantee that the things I'm having friction with or what have you are going to stay, and they probably will change. I think probably there's some balance tweaks that I think are probably going to happen from what things that have been saying, which is exactly as you would expect. I don't want that to come across as, it's, late in the day for them to be doing this. That's exactly the sort of thing you would expect them to be doing at the final tweak. The other thing I can say is that some of the mechanics... So there's an example. This is the type of thing I'm talking about. Quality, we have not touched quality. It's there in the game, we could be playing with it, could be experimenting with it. We have not touched it. Instead, people have been focusing on other particular things and we've not touched quality. So I don't really know anything other than I've already read in the Friday Facts. I haven't really given you my overall feeling. I say it was because it's very much been the vanilla, and I personally haven't really touched the new stuff, because I've been doing a lot of the other bits and pieces. I don't really have any impressions of the new things. And say we haven't played with quality. We haven't unlocked elevated rails yet. We have not got any of the new toys. But then it is only the first day. But so far, as I say, so good. Apart from, as I say, those slight friction points, and they're all things that I can tweak, and I may well do that. Prague and Travel. I guess I could talk about the actual travel as well. I've never been to Prague before. My camera is falling over. I'm lowering down because the camera's sinking down. Yeah, I've never been to Prague before. I'm not very well travelled. I have this problem of I don't like to be in situations that are out of my control. That's a bit of an extreme way of saying it. It's a bit like, I've just had a complaint there where may have come through that people aren't playing the game in the way that I want, and I'm trying to rein that in because that is me. That's nothing to do with them. That's entirely to do with me and how I play, and me as a person, sort of thing. So I am trying to get better at that. I'm trying not to be, well, why have you done it this way? You should do it this way, because I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think that's fun. I don't think it's in the spirit of it. But it's very difficult as a natural instinct to fight against. I'm not very well travelled. I've never been to Prague. Just me as a person, I've not tended to do much foreign travel. Also, for a lot of my life, didn't have a lot of money, so I couldn't really afford to go anywhere. I've not really experienced Prague yet. I'm planning to do that in the later days. I have kind of an extra bit of time here where I can just mosey around the city. But initial impressions are, really impressive. So all I've really experienced is going to the airport, the public transport and the hotel. And the public transport is amazing. It's like a properly integrated transport system. Obviously, it's a capital city, but it's quite at small scale. So it has three metro lines and has trams. I'm planning to go on trams. I love a good tram. And obviously a bus service. And the thing is, the whole system is like hugely integrated. One of the things that's really impressive about it is clearly a state-funded thing, a government-funded thing, because how it works is like the ticket is like just ride anything. So you basically get a time period. So you buy a sort of a 30-minute ticket or a 90-minute ticket or a 24-hour ticket, and it lasts for that long. And you can then use the anything, bus, metro, tram. There are some slight exceptions. There are like some special lines that you can't do. There's also like ferries, and there's a funicular railway apparently. You can use all of them on the single ticket, which is just an absolutely brilliant idea, and is a massive encouragement to use the thing. And I say there is like zoning and all this sort of stuff, so you can get more fine detail, but just turning up and using it. And to do that, I bought a 24-hour ticket because I didn't know how long it was going to take. The 90 minutes sounded close, and it was. It was actually a longer than 90-minute journey. But basically, that was then a bus ride, 2 tram journeys, and that sort of dropped me right at the hotel. Just really smooth. And this is it wasn't announcing things in English or anything like that, but the way it was signposted, the clarity of the messaging, you just, I had looked at how the tube was laid out, the metro was laid out, beforehand, and it, just 3 coloured lines, ABC, very, very simple. And of course, if you know which station you're going to, you can just look out for that name. And very simple system for doing it. It's almost a bit of an honour system. You just sort of validate your ticket. So you could obviously try and skip it, but there are inspectors and stuff. So yeah, just that initial impression, just blown away by that. It was just so smooth and so easy to do, and super cheap. As I say, I got that 24-hour ticket, and I think in pounds that was £4.05 or something. It was literally less than a fiver, and that was, as I say, a 24-hour ticket. To get something like that in the UK, you just don't have anything like that. You've got a travel card, and obviously you've got like Oyster cards and stuff like that let you get in and out. And Oyster is quite cheap, to use, and it is, bespoke to your journey. But you could travel this system just all day, on and off. And if you're doing that via Oyster, you'd easily get, up to 20, 30 quid's worth of travel. And I say that wouldn't have your train. It's not integrated with the buses. There's no coordination of the lines. Although I think you can use Oyster on buses now. I can't remember. But yeah, so I was just massively impressed by the public transport. It's what we need in the UK. And so that was a weird rant to go on, wasn't it? But yeah, so very impressed by that. And hopefully later blogs I'll be able to insert some pictures of what's going on. Unfortunately, I can't, as I say, because I can't show you anything. It's very difficult to take pictures of like the LAN happening, because you're going to see the screens, and I can't show you the screens. Space Age LAN Party, Day 2. Hello, and welcome. My name is Trismegistus, and I don't know why I'm bothering doing that, because this will be part of a single video, I expect. So this is a recording I'm making after the second day of the LAN event for Space Age Factorio. What's to say, I started writing down, because I realised after doing yesterday's, and it was late, and it's late again today, that there's loads of stuff I'd forgotten and I hadn't mentioned. So I'm not entirely sure that it's a successful approach going through what I discovered and what I played. There is so much in this expansion, which is awesome, but kind of trying to cram it into even 5 days is just bonkers, really. It's tricky because I guess one of the ways they could have done it was to have a pre-built save file, but of course people play Factorio in very different ways, and I play very differently. I'll be frank, it's one of the problems I'm having with the multiplayer, that people play in very different ways, and that's great. That's one of the things I love about the game. If you then have to play in the game where someone is playing very differently to you, and you're kind of not coordinating, and again, it's just what I like to do when I do multiplayer, is to kind of try and coordinate, even if the person I'm playing with build something differently to how I would build it. That's fine, so long as it's not just some random thing that I don't know why they've done it type of thing, and maybe I was building something the same, or I thought I was scaling this up and they've gone and built something else instead. Do you know what I mean? And that's sort of the problem I'm having with multiplayer. It's not so much that people build in different ways. We've got a left-hand drive and right-hand drive sets of rail going on, and it's fine because they're not really linked together. We've not done that, which we've not done a single integrated rail system, which is fine. I say it's not a problem, but there was no, and I say this is entirely, again, this is a reflection of me and like my mental. They're not problems, but the way I think, as it were, is just. So at the start, you just agree: are we all doing left-hand drive, or are we all doing right-hand drive? We just didn't even have the conversation, so I built one and they built the other. Which, I suppose is fine in a sense, and it's not necessarily a problem. It's a bit like that thing, if you logged into a game, a multiplayer server game, and you started playing and you just found that the way they were playing was not how you gel, you didn't gel with it, you would just leave sort of thing, and you would go and maybe try another multiplayer server. And that's sort of the problem. I can't really, it's kind of in good faith, go and join another multiplayer server. I mean, I can because of how it's being done, but I say it would just feel a bit weird that I would be jumping out for reasons that aren't very good ones, if you see what I mean. So effectively what I've decided, because I've felt a bit like someone picking up and fixing things that other people have made problems in, and I don't want to say mistakes or anything like that, say play it how you want, but I'm fixing things. I'm doing a lot of fixing. I've spent ages doing combat, which is interesting because that's what the Friday Fax is that's come out, and you can actually really feel those balancing changes. They may sound small and they may sound, inconsequential, but you can really feel it. You can. The tougher, spawner nests is a real, difficulty to overcome, because, especially say with kind of how we've done it, our evolution level on Novice is just way out of the, or apparently it's called Novice, but it's way out of the where you'd expect us to be at this stage in the game, because people have gone and killed a lot of nests, which I know a lot of players do, but you don't need to, Anyway, that's all beside this one. It sounds a lot like moaning, but it really isn't. I am enjoying getting access to the game, and I've kind of just decided today, tomorrow, I'm just going to do what I want to do, in a sense. It's what I probably should have been doing from the start. I'm going to go to one of the planets and explore one of the planets, even if I'm on my own and, I've not got what I need to do. As we know, this has been stated, that, and it's on the Discord, I don't think on the Friday Facts, but the intermediate planets are designed to be bootstrappable. You can just build from beginning. Maybe it's tough, maybe you need to do a lot of work. Maybe there's some, recipes that are more complicated than the Alvis ones, but you can land there with nothing, build rockets, get off, get the science done type of thing. So that's what I've decided to do, basically, is to go to the planet that the rest of my teammates have not been to, and basically, just build there. I'm kind of doing that essentially by stealing, because this is what I'm really getting at with the problems I'm having, is that we don't have enough production. Okay, they've kind of shot into the the new content, which I don't in any way blame them for. That that's kind of what we're here for. And this was what I was saying about, they could have started us with a save that had a lot of stuff already built, but of course it may not have been gelled with how you would build it. And so we're having to do that whole, this is what I was saying yesterday, we're having to do that whole initial part of the game that I know just off the back of my head. There are changes, and so it's good to see those changes. And there's a lot of quality of life stuff. There's all sorts of things. Said in the video yesterday, some bits I've not quite taken to immediately, and some bits I'm really loving. And so it's good to experience those. But it means that you've got that whole period at the beginning, and you're basically now in a situation where everyone else has naffed off to other planets, and they're having a great time discovering it all, and I've just sort of ended up stuck on the planet, still fixing stuff, still killing biters, and bringing in resources and stuff. And I think I've just decided, well, plough on and I'll do my own planet. The other side to this, I now have beta access, basically, so I have the luxury in the next few weeks, which is why I'm not being too fussed about this sort of issue that I'm having, is that I now have beta access. So basically I can just go in and play, and I can see what version 2 is about on its own without Space Age. I can see what Elevated Rail's about, what Quality's about, and I can do these things in my own time and just learn the game. It will do, because it always does for me. It sounds like a complaint. More about the event. The event itself, just to say, has been amazing. It's been incredibly well organised. So this is where it's brilliant. We've organised a tour, tourist thing of Prague on the Sunday, and it's just an amazing thing, to be doing, sort of thing. Laying on for us, and they've been feeding us, and it's gone incredibly smoothly. The game for me hasn't crashed. I think there have been 2 crashes. That's it, sort of thing, and they're updating the game as it's going along. It is incredible organisation and an amazing event. The other surreal thing that I was talking about yesterday continues, where the devs are coming and sort of saying hello, and there's me, shy and not knowing what to say again, and my classic introvert personality kicking in again. And it's very difficult, and particularly in this gigantic room with loads of other people there, it's just not my natural comfort space. It's why the YouTube and the Twitch works very well, because it's very controlled, very focused. There's no one physically there. They're all just sort of in my head, in a sense, or very much imagined. And so to have people actually come and tell you that they like the videos and stuff like that, it's flattering and lovely and great, and it's nice. But then I'm not a conversationalist, I can't really talk to them. I think you find that actually with a lot of people who do YouTube and Twitch, they are, shy nerds, basically. It's like that thing, everyone who does these things, they're playing a character, they're playing a part, and that's either a greater or lesser relationship to themselves as a person. I get very deep again, and I feel like I'm having a therapy session. I guess, given I can't do speculation anymore, maybe this is the replacement. I come on, YouTube and just cry about things like some first world problems type of thing, isn't it? So I am having fun. I don't know that I really learnt anything new today, other than vicariously through, what people are saying on the chat. And I need to experience the proper new content, and I want to, and I'm just going to force that to happen. About the teaser. So I've just done the video, which I say is probably not what you were expecting. There was one thing I completely forgot to say, which so yesterday part of the record, I did a little thing, just like a jokey little thing. The idea was to sort of maybe tease that, maybe I was here, maybe I wasn't. And it kind of occurred to me as like a little silly little thing I could do, having seen, because Troopham posted a video saying about the event, and one of the things he did was show off the swag that they've given us. Again, amazing organisation and stuff, and generosity from yeah, so he showed off his facts, and it was one of which is a mug. And I thought, well, what I could do is I could drink this mug without referencing at all. And and also, I mean, there's like a heat wave going on here in Prague. It's incredibly hot. It's like 32 degrees and stuff. Which, considering it's September, is really hot. I mean, I don't know what weather in Prague is normally like, but it's incredibly hot. So I thought, I could reference that to say, well, that's clearly where I've gone on holiday, and I can drink from this mug, and it could be like, well, that's the same mug that Truppen showed off. But is that, did he buy that as a, merchandise thing or what, And so I did this, and I messed it up because the YouTube interface at the back end it was a double whammy. It was the YouTube interface and my phone, how it does certain things. I actually said it was scheduled on the Friday, exactly the same time the Friday Facts came out, and I wasn't intending that. I was intending for it to come out on the Monday, but say the way it's like a dial thing that it uses, and also some of the meanings in what this because there's like a YouTube app basically that lets you post videos. Anyway, so technical cock up, and I like immediately realised when I saw comments coming up that it had gone live. So I put it set it to Monday, and then it turns out the Friday Facts, which I read later on, I'm in one of the pictures. So it's hardly really a tease if there's like a blooming photo. I mean, it's not face sort of thing, but I mean my bald head and the carpal tunnel brace that I wear, and obviously being a gigantic lump, basically it's not difficult to spot me. And there it was, I was like, oh. So eventually I just set it live anyway. So it was like, yeah. The best laid. I thought it was, it was just like a really nice little. Wait, is he there? Is he not? But yeah, there I am in the photos. So yeah, that was just an amusing little thing that happened. Space Age LAN Party, Day 3. Hello and welcome, my name is Trismegistus, and today is the third day of the Factorio Space Age LAN Party that will be kindly organised in Prague. It's a Saturday. I'm shattered. So it's a bit of a mixed day for several reasons, and yeah, we'll kind of get into them. But basically, on the good side, what I was complaining about yesterday, I kind of resolved in the way I said I would. In that, I essentially just decided, that I'm going to go to Fulgora, and I'm going to play Fulgora and learn one of the new planets and work out the mechanics and all that sort of stuff. And I pretty much did that. The sort of downside, and I didn't get that far with it, and we'll kind of come on to that a bit later as well, but also the problem aspect was that I basically had no sleep last night. I think I mentioned I don't know if I did actually in this actual series of videos, but I did mention it in the little tease I did. But Prague is having a bit of a heat wave. It's literally 32 degrees, I think it was on Friday, something like that. I mean, we're literally, we're talking top 30s, and it doesn't really cool off that much at night and in the evening. First few days I was fine. Maybe I was just tired from the exertions of the travel and playing the game and all that sort of stuff. But last night I just did not sleep, and I was just so hot. I had to have the air conditioning on, which then made. I find air conditioning very drying, and I get a dry throat, and I have to go and have a drink, and I have to then get up for pee and all this sort of stuff. And there's way too much detail, but you get the point that I was just uncomfortable and I just could not sleep. And so yeah, I didn't do as much as I was hoping because I was just knackered. It got to the dinner, which is done at 6 o'clock, and I thought that I was so tired. I thought that was the end of the day. I thought that was that when it was ending. Because it's done been done in like a schedule, basically. There's like a fixed pattern, and they're forcing us all to take breaks and all this sort of thing, which is good, because people can behave a bit unhealthily and in these sorts of situations. So that was the problem. I didn't get as far as I wanted, didn't do as much as I wanted because I was just shattered. Fulgora gameplay impressions. Other than that, in terms of the actual Fulgora gameplay, I really enjoyed it. It is an absolute mind bender in a way that I was not anticipating. The concept of the recycling, the probabilities and all that sort of stuff I was comfortable with. in a sense the same as quality, you know, being probabilistic. But because you're doing this thing with the scrap, and I'm not revealing anything that's not in the Friday Facts here, you know this, it's a scrap that you mine and you recycle it in order to make useful things out of it. But those useful things are generally high-level ingredients, okay? And they're not kind of... I'm sure they've been balanced in a gameplay way, you know, to make it interesting and challenging and what have you. But they're not balanced in a you get exactly, it's percentage-based. You don't get exactly 4, low-density structures and, 3, copper cables or something like that. It's like a weird mix of that's not exactly what you want, but it's also shortcutting a lot of steps. You get copper cables. So green circuits, you've already got the copper cable, so you don't need to do that step. You don't need to downcycle to copper, except that, you want green circuits. Well, you can get green circuits by, recycling the red circuits, they come out of there, or you're getting gear wheels, and you get quite a lot of gear wheels, so is it better to recycle them into iron plate and use the copper cables that you've got in order to make green circuits that way? And the answer, of course, and this is, I didn't get to actually doing this, and I don't think I will, to be honest with you, because it is complicated. The real answer to this is to do everything, because the sort of what I think the approach needs to be is maybe a bot base. You could do it with belts, but the real answer is a logistics control system and a circuit or a circuit controlled system. It's really a planet, I think, where I'm pretty sure you can brute force things. You'll be able to work around it if you're willing to put the time, the resources, the effort into doing it. I think you can kind of brute force your way around it, and especially if you're willing to do stuff like blowing chests of rubbish up and stuff like that. It's like one of the problems with it, in a sense, is that you get an enormous amount of stone. There's just loads and loads of stone that you don't need. And there's a similar problem on Volcanus, but Volcanus you can just chuck it in the lava. You can't on Fulgora, you've got to do something with it. And that doing something with it is probably making stone brick or concrete, and those you do need in volume. So there's like this, how am I going to optimise this system, basically? That's what it's about. Space Age is huge, but that kind of raises an issue that's been cropping up a bit, in that I don't know quite how to phrase it. It's not so much the format of the event, as I say, it's been really well organised, really well done. It's more that this expansion is enormous. The aim of doing an expansion that is the same amount as the base game is incredibly difficult, I think, to judge, because the way they've kind of achieved that, in a sense, is how to put it, each planet, and this is the good thing, and I'm sort of happy with it, each planet has these unique mechanics to it, okay? And they're using this whole, you have to build certain buildings there, you have to produce certain intermediates there in order to make those planets relevant and important and meaningful. But what that means is that each planet is complicated. And imagine if you think back the first couple of times you played Factorio, and you may not remember it properly, it may be a long time ago, but you may also, another good example is people who come on Reddit and do the whole, is my base good? Roast my base and all these sorts of things, because they want that feedback. They want that, am I doing this right? Because Factorio is complicated, let's not pretend it's a complex game. And a lot of, I think my audience, is probably, and certainly, more familiar with the game. I don't think I get too many people who don't. It's one of the things I actually want to do in my content is kind of embrace, more of a spectrum, because I think most of you watching this will be, deep into it, basically, and really understand it, and, almost certainly better than me. That puts you in a different bracket to, shall we say, I'm guessing most of the people who play it, except not. I think a lot of the people who do play it and finish it and sort of, build big factories, I think that is actually the majority of the player base. It's just that it's the type of game that it's like that thing of, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, basically, of like, this is the type of player it attracts, And that is also the type of player who will enjoy it and see it through and enjoy that sort of complexity and challenge to it. So I do think, a lot of the players do, engage with it in a sense fully, and that's why it's such a devoted fan base. But you've got to try and think of it from a point of view of how was it like the first time you played it? Did you restart? I'm pretty sure the answer to that for everyone is going to be yes. At some point you got to a point where you were like, this is just a mess. I'm being overrun by biters, or, I've just completely boxed myself in and I'm not enjoying this. I'll start again, and I'll do it better. And the fact that eventually, the fact that some players never get past that is kind of, a reflection of that complexity of Factorio. Now imagine that you took that complexity of difficult, new, unfamiliar systems and did it 4 more times. Because that's what it is. It's 4 games that they're adding on. It's just that what they've done, coming back to the point, and it's an entirely, valid thing to do, and this isn't a criticism of it. We'll get back to why I'm making this point in a bit, but what they've done is they've kind of scaled back. When I did my science video, and I was saying there'll be 20 scientists per planet, and my reasoning was along the same lines of, if there's 80 on, Nauvis, and you do 4 extra planets, then you take 80 and you divide it up by 4 and you get 20. It's kind of obvious, because if you made every planet 80 sciences long, that's an entire new Factorio. You'd be making players go through 5 complete playthroughs in order to play the game. And you might, really enjoy that type of challenge. People play SpaceX, they play Bobs and Angels, they play C-Block, they play Pyanodons. But you're getting into narrower and narrower blocks of people, and they don't want to just exclude everybody else and just appeal to that group. Not least of all because, they're a company, they've got to make money. But the basic point I'm getting to is that they've stripped back the techs, so there are fewer techs as you'd expect. But each planet has a really complicated new system, and that is good. That's a good thing for us as the player base. But for this particular event, it doesn't suit it, if that makes sense. Because even if I was dedicating the amount of time, if I was on holiday and, with this same, thing presented, you've got sort of 5 days to play it through, I would not finish this game. There is just so much in it that understanding all of this system, if you've seen, the VODs of my live streams, and not necessarily even if you've watched them, you can look at the playlist and see that, I don't know what the numbers are, but Bob's I spent, I don't know what it was, 20 streams, which is 60 hours in and of itself, and I did not finish Bob's, I did not do all of the alternate recipes and all the alternate ways of doing things. I launched a rocket and I called it done. Even if you take that approach, each planet is a bit like that. You've got to understand all of these mechanics that it's doing, and they are very different. There is no transfer over. And so what they've effectively done is they've chucked a load of people together who don't know each other, don't know the game, and then are kind of getting their first reaction. Okay. But what I'm kind of looping back to is that they're getting a little bit of pushback, I think, that is more to do with people do not know this expansion. They've read the Friday Facts. They've seen. What I'm kind of drawing up towards is, I think actually, and this was kind of building on something we knew. We kind of knew that this expansion was always intended to be for people who are familiar with the game. Space Age should not be your first playthrough, and I think they've been fairly clear that that was the case. It's really true. You should not. It's a bit like, you do get posts on Reddit where people come in and go, I've just bought the game, should I, download, I've heard SpaceX is amazing, should I download that and that be my first playthrough? Absolutely not. No, don't do that. And Space Age is the same. So, I say, for my audience, you guys watching this, I think, be able to, understand that it's your experience with the game as it is now that will kind of carry you into the new content, but do not expect it to be easy. It's a lot more accessible than the likes of SpaceX. I'm not sure it's less complicated, okay? And I don't mean that as to put anyone off. I'm just saying that, if you're not that experienced with the game, play through version 2.0 as a vanilla thing. because we are being given beta access, what I'm going to do when I get back actually is play through version 2.0 as is, because there are so many changes and improvement. They're not just, well, there are changes, but there are also improvements. Yeah, there are things that are better in this version of the game. Okay, but they're not familiar to me. So you're stacking up. You're basically taking my legs under me from all that. This is what I know, and you taking that away and saying nope, it doesn't work like that anymore. Just for the base game, and then you're saying okay, and we're also giving you something called quality, which is an RNG mechanic, and is massively powerful. It's hugely powerful quality, but it's an enormous resource sink, particularly early on. And so if you dive into that, you're going to spend 50 hours making quality everything and realise you've not even been to the first planet. You've got to work out for you when is the best time and what to do with quality, and that's going to take you a few playthroughs. And as I say, you've added that on, so that's a separate system that is just, you could do. I almost think that it should be more like you play the base game with, maybe you have elevated rails, maybe that's the change, but you play the base game with quality, then you play the base game with Space Age, then you play the base game with everything. Yeah, so that then when you get that, it's almost like that. Play Bobs first, then play Angels, then play Bobs and Angels, then play C Block or something. It's like that progression, okay? And I think Space Age is a bit like that. And that's not a criticism, that's more just a reflection of this is complicated, and that's kind of what I want. For this event, it's too much. Part of the reason I'm saying that is that, I say, they've been getting a little bit of pushback. The change that was in the Friday facts about the combat, that I think I mentioned yesterday, that I hadn't known they'd changed it, but I could feel that there was something wrong. And this is the exact type of thing I'm talking about. They've changed how combat works. Okay? So you need to work out how you're going to do combat in the new version. What tools are you going to use that will help you with the combat, again, particularly in terms of killing the spawners. But what they've also done, in Space Age in particular, is they've moved some of the toys that you might have used into different parts of the game. They were, and this is already known. Was in like one of the earliest Friday facts that artillery is now not on Nauvis. Okay, Spidertron is now not on Nauvis. If those were the two of your tools that you used to deal with biters in that later game bit, when you've got a big factory, depending on how you approach it, sort of thing, I tend to have artillery quite early, a lot earlier than Spidertron, for example. But if that's how you approach it, that's gone. You can't do that in Space Age, because to do artillery, you've got to go to some other planet, which is fine. But if that's how you're dealing with the biters when they're tougher, you've got to have a new strategy. And so you've got to work out a new way of fighting the biters. That's not to mention pentapods. Completely different enemy and operates in a completely different way. So if you go there, you've got to do something completely different. Do you know what I mean? This was the secret reason that you'll have probably heard me on some of my videos talking about how I think this is version 2. And I don't mean this is version 2 of the engine like they're releasing. This is Factorio 2. Because they have changed the base game in significant ways, not just to make Space Age fit, but in ways that mean it's a different experience. Okay? And I'm not saying that to put you off. I'm not saying that you shouldn't therefore get it. And they literally said this in the sort of opening address, is that don't think you're going to take your old base and refactor it to a new one. Okay? Because I'm sure you can. I'm sure that probably also means just ripping the entire thing down and starting again, because it just doesn't work the same way. It's all very well saying rockets are cheaper and you get them earlier and you use them to do space platforms. Great. That means it's a completely different game. It's the same, but it's completely different. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not minor tweaks, it's proper revisions of the game. And for me personally, I'm really looking forward to relearning the game. It's almost getting that experience again of that I had in the first playthrough. It's essentially been sort of sized around a very experienced player. So when you say it's a normal playthrough doubled, it's a normal playthrough of who knows what they're doing. And to give you, the final thought on that, and to really bring the point home, there is a team in the LAN that involves speedrunners. They are the only people, I think, who stand a chance of winning the game. And part of that is they found a couple of exploits. Okay, so they have cheesed a couple of things. They were patched, as they went along, so you're not going to encounter them, but they found a couple of things that made little bits and pieces easier, but also they're the sort of people who know the game in a different way to everybody else. They know the switches that they need to flick at the right points to do the things that matter. They know which bits to scale, what not to scale. One of the things I've seen them do with combat was a bit of a revelation. What I did basically, I went, today, I just did a tour of the servers, because you can look at everybody's playthrough, and everybody is roughly in the same sorts of positions. Some are a bit stronger footing than others, but as I say, the speedrunners are miles ahead of everybody else. Would you not expect that? That's the point, isn't it? That was interesting. Apparently there's a maximum length recording movies on the camera. Yes, so basically the basic point is that the speedrunners, I think, are the only ones who probably stand a chance of finishing the game, as in getting to that end point that, like you do in the normal game. I'm sure there will be a pop-up screen that says you have finished, but you can continue if you want to. I don't actually know that that's going to happen, as I say. But my point is, even if there isn't, they will be at a point where you could say, right, well, they have won the game, now they're doing a mega base if they want to, whereas the rest of us are going to be, 4 steps behind. And I took a tour of the servers. A lot of the people at this stage have not unlocked all of the intermediate planets, and those that have, our group has, but we are it's like that thing of people have focused on, say, one planet, and they're way advanced with their planet, whereas we've gone more wide, and so we're much less teched across all of it. And as I say, it is that situation that I think everyone is roughly in about the same net place, but they have more advantage in different places. So yeah, I guess if the camera's telling me that I've gone past the maximum record length on that particular first part of the video, then I should probably wrap this up. I've obviously been prattling on for a long time. So you need to look at this a little bit dispassionately. I'm not saying anything. There are definitely things that need improving. Let's be frank. It isn't a finished thing, and a lot of it is tweaking. A lot of it is quality of life stuff that, or expected. It's like the way things function is not quite as it should be, because it's not consistent with the way that other systems function. When you do control click and shift click, and they have functionality that you learn and understand, and then they'll have done it slightly differently in a new system because someone's just chucked it in, and it needs that little bit of, wait, why have you bound that to control left click when it should be control right click? It just needs that little bit of tweak, and it's all kind of pretty much there. So there are some little bits that are obviously still not quite done, but it's pretty much all there, and it's clear what they were doing. Honestly, I am enjoying it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. As I say, I'm a bit worried I'm coming across as very negative on this. I am, enjoying the event, and today in particular I really liked, even though I was shattered. I didn't do as much as I wanted. But yeah, I'm actually, I guess just to say, ahead of tomorrow's one, I'm actually taking advantage of, they're doing a city tour, and basically so at the very least the morning I'm not going to play at all. I've actually also started to get aches and pains in my arms from just sitting all the time, so I may not even play in the afternoon, or may go in mid-afternoon or something like that, do a few hours type of thing. But yeah, I'm definitely in need of a break, because I'm an old man. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. And I can always just stick it in the bin if it doesn't. Space Age LAN Party, Day 4. Hello, and welcome. Today is Day 4 of the Factorio LAN Party. I've kind of gone on a bit of a journey. So, as you probably detected in the first 3 blog posts, depending on what I actually leave in the edit, talk about rambling, blimey. I was a little worried about the expansion, as I just discussed in those videos. But I was also worried. Part of it was that the expansion wasn't quite what I was expecting it to be, or quite what I was hoping it to be. Maybe I don't think that's the case. I do think a lot of what I've analysed already, what I've said, and what I'll put down in sort of better words, and probably do a script for this and do some wrappers around the actual live reactions that I had. But I do think a lot of the points I made are still there, and that part of the concerns that I had, that everybody had, were it's the first contact problem, that you're going in completely blind to a new thing, and it's something you think you're familiar with. When you encounter all these problems that you wouldn't normally have, you start to think that maybe that's the game that's the problem, not the way you've approached it. And I think it was possibly a little bit of both, in that I do think there are some balances and tweaks and changes. I've been starting to make loads of suggestions about tiny little tweaks that they can make to just smooth things off a bit, if you see what I mean. There are perhaps a few burrs and rough edges that do need some polishing up. The other factor to this is, I actually got some sleep last night. Not a lot, only about 5 hours, because it's just been so hot, and I can't sleep with the air conditioning on. It dries the room out. It's not even that effective anyway. And I mean, thankfully, it breaks tomorrow. Is the forecast that it's going to be? It's actually going to rain and stuff, and be what you might regard as cold. So yeah, hopefully that comes to pass, and then I'll get, I presume, an amazing night's sleep. Tomorrow's event is a lot shorter as well, and I think they're going to do like fun stuff, from what they were saying, as in a few little jokey bits and pieces, shall we say, and just to end on a bit of fun, really. But also today, as I say, not helped by the heat, they organised some trips around, like tours, guided tours basically, around Prague. What a beautiful city! I was just blown away. It is. People tend to say, it's sort of Eastern Europe, but it's not. It's more sort of Central Europe, really. And it's very simple. So, as in France and Spain. It's sort of architecture-wise, it has a lot more in common with that than what you would associate with Eastern Europe. And as I say, there's a heck of a lot of history. I hadn't realised there was so much religious stuff, and because it was a proper tour with a tour guide, and they were explaining about the whole Gollum thing. I'm not going to explain what Gollum is. Too tired to do one of my 20-hour diversions or whatever. But I hadn't realised that was here. That that he lived here. The sort of creator of of Gollum, as it were, and meaning golem, meaning the actual clay, made of clay, basically, like a artificial man made of clay, and it's where Gollum derives from, basically. But anyway, yeah. So I hadn't realised that was here. I knew the Jewish what would you call it, story, I guess, but I didn't realise it was here, and all sorts of bits and pieces like that, and say very historic, rich history. And as I say, I was surprised by how religious, it was, so much about, it was about Catholics and Protestants and all these sorts of things. And as I mentioned, the Gollum thing, the Jew, it's quite a big Jewish quarter, specifically sort of set up for them. And it seems to have very much shaped, the city itself. So yeah, so I did that, and that was in the morning, and that was basically all morning. And so I didn't play Factorio until, because it was so hot, I had to come back for a shower. And that turned into a 2-hour sit down, basically, just because I was just overheated, but also tired, and I just sort of sat down and kind of was an old man, basically. And yeah, so I didn't go back till I probably started playing again. I had another chat with one of the devs and started playing again maybe about 3 o'clock-ish, because they had some Q&A. I mean, the slightly unfortunate thing was the timing of the tour, in that they did a few talks today, because the idea was that today was a day when people who could only do one day came. It's sort of good from a point of view of that meant there were lots of free PCs, because a lot of us were on the tour. But they also did some Q&A sessions, timing it with that, and I think other events. And obviously I just missed all of that. But I did catch the end of a Q&A, which was quite interesting. And then I basically played a bit of a technical issue, so even now they're still getting problems. I think, I'll be honest, I think it was more server related. I don't think it was a game problem. But yeah, so that's the first technical issue I found, or encountered rather. Single player experience. Well, what I actually did, and it was actually really useful, was I started a new single player game, basically, because although this is a LAN party, multiplayer and all that, you are free to start single player games. So because we'd sort of rushed through everything so quickly, we were sort of at blue science after an hour type of thing, you know. No, it probably wasn't even that, maybe half an hour. And so I hadn't really properly interacted with the new system where you doing things unlocks stuff. You know, you've got to remember, and this is one of the key differences and why I'm not really coming down with a proper final judgment, is that doing it single player is very different to doing it multiplayer. Even if it's randos or it's friends group in particular, in that you can parallelize a lot of the work. You know, one person can go and do one thing while another person does another thing, and so you get it done in a lot quicker time. And this is the question I really have for it still, is if you're doing it all on your own, is that too much? You know, does it just take too long to do? Because the other big thing that happened today is someone finished it, and the team that finished it, I think I can say this, I've said before, I'm not going to say who was there, as it were, it's up to them to say, but there was a team that was predominantly speedrunners. I'm not really into the speedrunning thing, so I wouldn't know them anyway, even if you asked me to name them. But yeah, I was told that it was a team of speedrunners. It took them until from the very start of the thing, it was literally the end show was them finishing the game. And I'm obviously not going to tell you what that means, what that is, but Kovrix was on stage basically saying this is too easy. Getting that final tick in that box, he was intending to be more difficult. I mean, I think he was slightly joking, and obviously he does appreciate that these are the guys who know how to break the game. I think I mentioned I did a LAN tour, and because I mentioned them then, they were doing something cheesy with landmines basically. Although it turned out in the thing they said that one of them had basically stayed on Nalvis spamming landmines. That was their job basically, and yeah, so even they had taken 4 full days, whatever it'd be, say let's call it 9 hours of playing. I think the game time was something like 36 hours or something, and I don't know how many of them were. The teams are 10 in size, up to 10 sort of thing is a planned thing. Only a couple have actually got that, but yeah, say if it was 8 of them, and 2 of them weren't speedrunners, so it's taken 6 speedrunners, plus supporting people, 30 something hours, 34 hours to beat, the whole thing. And that's not getting into the, that's not you already know there is an end game science. Kovrix has said it, like space science, where it's, lets you do the infinite techs. And it's taken them that long to get there. And that's one of them, at the very end, how long they thought a speedrun would take. Would it be speedrunnable, basically? Because I think this is one of the things they're a little bit concerned about, that they effectively, it becomes, like one of these games where you have to take a break. It's just too long to do a speedrun. And they said about 4 hours. But that was what do they call it, any percentage. You've got blueprints already, is that run that they do, which is the easiest. And I think is less than an hour. I don't know. I'm not into speedrunning. But if it goes from say hour and a half to 4 hours, that means it's 2.5 times as long. Yeah, which is long. If you remember this, it should be doubling the length, and it's actually a doubling and a third again. That's the point I was making. This is a big expansion and a very deliberate one. So yeah, I say the sort of journey I've been on basically is that I actually really enjoyed what I played today. God damn, there's just nothing left of my voice. Yeah, I say I really enjoyed today because it was properly getting into the whole working out how Fulgora works, because that's where I went. Pretty much there half of yesterday, what I played today, which would be 4 hours or something, 5 hours. What I did initially when I got there was just work out the mechanics. What am I actually doing? Does it involve this type of processing of things? Is it best to do it this way? What's a good idea for doing this? Have a good think and a good plan. And then I was kind of executing that plan, and I've not actually. Well, I've produced a couple of the science packs because, as I say, I was testing it out. But doing it at a scale, I have not done yet. You see, so even with all that, that whatever that be in total, maybe 6 or 10 hours or something like that playing it, I've not actually got to the point of doing the thing. Basically, I'm not producing the science pack. And the first ones I would produce, would be small scale, and it would need scaling up. It would need the same, thing building, I think, a couple of times, because you've seen Fulgora. You build on these plateaus, and they're very limited space, and it's very difficult to move things between the plateaus. So yeah, to do anything science-wise at volume is probably another 3 times as long. So you're talking, 25, 30 type hours? And that's one planet. And would I have researched all of the text at that point? I don't know. Our first person who went to Gleba was, that was our first pioneer. They only really started producing science packs after, I think it was 2 days, basically, because they got there at the end of the first day. And so another full 2 days, about 18 hours or what have you, to get started on science packs. And there's still, the research is still ticking away. And this is what I'm saying. So you've effectively got, 30 hours, 30 hours, 30 hours for the 3 intermediate planets. And that's with the others have multiple people working on them. I've been joined by one of the other team members, but initially it was just me, So that's the type of thing I'm saying, is basically, this is not, in your first playthrough, don't expect to do it in a week sort of thing. Even if you have literally all of that time of the week. For you discovering the mechanics, I don't think it's possible to do it. Well, unless you watch guides and what have you, but yeah. Coming back around. So the journey that I've been on, I'm rambling away because I'm very tired again. But the journey I've been on is basically I've gone through a sort of I don't know about this, and I'm not enjoying this, and then sort of flipping back round to, actually this is quite fun. And by the end of it I've been like, yeah, this is good. I'm enjoying this. I've flipped round to I'm really looking forward to playing the full thing. But as I say, I do still need to emphasise those caveats that I still don't think this is an expansion for a newbie, and I don't think it's an expansion where your first playthrough you should expect to do it in anything like a short period of time, because you're gonna have to learn it. And it's not simple. The comparison I made in one of my feedbacks is that each planet is like doing a new overhaul mod. So imagine basically playing a game and you do, I don't know what would be a good order to do them in, but you do Bob's or something, and then you do Angel, and then once you've added, so you play through the game, and then you go, right, well I'm going to add Bob's on. So then you've got the complexity of Bob's, and just ignore the fact that the recipes would break and stuff, and then you go, right, now I'm going to add Angels. So you've done all of Bob's, and then you're adding on Angels, so it's a starting almost again. And then you go, I don't know what would be another good one, but maybe then you add Factorio too. I don't even think they're compatible, but it's that sort of thing where you're saying, right, now I'm going to do this extra overhaul mod, and that's when that's the 3 intermediate planets, and then you've got then you're adding, I don't know, what's one of the bonkers ones, Pyanodons, is it, or like I don't know. I get a bit mixed up with what the really space exploration. Ironically. You're adding on another one that planet, I believe, obviously I haven't really seen it, is meant to be super complicated, you see. So yeah, so it's a big expansion is the point, which I say is good, but you need to be aware of that, I think. So yeah, those were the thoughts for the day. Tomorrow is a shorter day, and as I say, it's probably going to be full of fun, as it were. I hope in the afternoon, because I would quite like to produce the science pack on Fulgora. We'll have to see, and I'll report back. And say it's a shorter one, but I will probably use the evening to chill out. Basically, I do have an extra day in Prague, like a proper day. We'll see what I get up to. Whether I do a blog, I kind of doubt. If I forget to say it, it has been an amazing event, and enormous thanks to Woob, Woobay. I don't know. I've had. I think the official sort of pronouncements are Woobay, or Woobay, something like that, and Norvis rather than Nauvis. I'm still going to call them Wooby and Nauvis, and maybe I'll put some photos in, because I took a load of photos today, so maybe I'll stick a few of those in for the last day to show you Prague. As I say, I have kind of done an interesting journey, basically. So yeah. Space Age LAN Party, Day 5. Hello and welcome. My name is Trismegistus, and this is we'll get to that. This is the recording for the blog Day 5 of the LAN Party. It is not Day 5 of the LAN Party, it is the day after. I use this term jokingly. I didn't actually do this, but I collapsed basically last night, meaning I ran out of steam, ran out of energy, and pretty much went to bed. So, I mean, obviously I went to bed every day, but what I mean is the event actually ended early. They did lay on dinner as the end thing, and what I should have done, if I wasn't an introvert and I wasn't extremely shy, is come around and say goodbye to all the people who said hello to me. But I was barely conscious, plus as I say, I'm a shy person anyway. I literally came home, I think I checked my email, and then it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, basically. At some point I had taking my shoes off. I don't remember doing that. I've just been so tired. And say a lot of that was more to do with lack of sleep rather than, the event itself was obviously intense. 5 solid days pretty much of play Factorio, and also the very long hot walk around the very beautiful city of Prague. So yeah, I was just zonked, and there wouldn't have been any point recording a blog. I was even, a couple of people did come and chat to me as I was out just, eating the dinner, and I was just slurring words and mixing my phrase, speaking up, and just shattered, basically. I'm an old man. So I can't really do these super duper long things without proper sleep. But yeah, it must have been like 16, 18 hours. Anyway, that's all beside the point. The basic point is it's not the end of day 5. It's technically the start of day 6. I'm going to be going around Prague today, just wandering around, I think. As I say, I'm still pretty tired, so don't think I'll do anything particularly interesting, but I'll take some photos. Unfortunately, the weather forecast is possible rain, but more sort of overcast, which, as I say, after the heat that we've had, that's perfectly fine by me, although my photos may be a bit more moody and dramatic than they were on the first. I had to look through them, from the tour. So they're almost comically like saturated. It looks like I've slapped filters on them and stuff like that, because it's so, and the sky is like the most azure, your brightest blue you've ever seen. So it's almost comical, but yeah, it's been a great event, I would say, overall. Incredibly well organised by Wooby, just amazing. I think it was one on the second day they sort of ran out of food. That was like the only thing, and also as a personal thing, the only sort of soft drinks available in the event were Coke, and there was like lemonade, but that was not what I would call lemonade. That's as in lemon water, type lemonade, rather than lemonade to Brits is a fizzy drink, basically. And I would have loved to have had Sprite, something like that is what we would tend to classify as a lemonade. So yeah, something like a bit more variety there. But if that's literally the level of my complaints about the event, then you can tell how well it was done. Again, in terms of the games, I really have come 180 on it. I will probably leave the bits where I'm a bit moany, a bit sulky it was really the day 2 experience. Just more to show, just because it would be funny for one thing, but also more to show, I have flipped round. Also gelled a bit better with the teammates. I think some of the, as I say, a big thing in this, I would say, that was a bit difficult was that whole, you're starting from scratch, and everyone was like, we've got to get to the new stuff, and that's fine, but having been a person who has gone into all the depth of all the Friday facts and really tried to understand it, I knew that it needed infrastructure to support going to the other planets, especially with however many there were of us wanting to go. 6, I think, people left, or 7, something like that. So then you're left with a situation where anyone left behind, if you've not set up that infrastructure, is just going to have a miserable time, as one of the devs put it to me, of just constantly fighting biters, because it's not an efficient base. It's not a well-defended base. It's something that's been thrown together and left. And yet it's expected to deliver loads and loads of low density structures and blue circuits and rocket fuel just in order to send stuff. And those you also want to be able to take with you, because bootstrapping on the new planet is a bit tedious, if I'm honest. If you were starting on that planet, you'd be fine, it'd be okay. But you've already done it all. You've already built built assemblers, you've already built inserter assemblers, you've already built blah, 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 blah. So if you have the infrastructure just to send them from Nauvis, then it just makes your life a lot easier, and to automate all that. And we didn't, and there were actually 2 devs in the team, and they basically stayed on Nauvis, like upgrading it all while we were working on, messing about on the other planets. And when we eventually went back to Nauvis, because they did some end bits, that were, basically we went to the final planet, and we all went back there, and that was it. We literally just arrived, and that was the end of the event. So you're talking about 45 hours or something of gameplay from, I'd say mostly fairly experienced players, in order to get to the final planet. That kind of shows you the scale of what was going on. And so when we got back there, they had 14 rockets, like supplying all this stuff that people were ordering. And when we left, we had 5. So that shows you how much they'd scaled it up, basically, in order to support us. And that, I think, is what you need to do. I think a quick and dirty approach is possible. I'm not saying it has to be done that way, but I think scale is really where you need to go if you're playing this through. It's a tricky thing, because you've got the excitement of getting to the new planets, but if you get there and you can't do anything, essentially, you've not got any military stuff to deal with pentapods or normal building stuff for every planet, then you're going to have a tough time, and possibly, as I say, a bit of a tedious one, because you're going to have to set all that up. It's it still all applies. It's still the same logistics on every planet. So you either need to build it there, or you need to import it. So it's up to you which you do. But yes, I kind of had a real flip round on the expansion. I was a bit, as I said in, I think the last one, I was a bit worried about, is this too big? Is this too complex? Is there too much in it? Is it too tedious to do it? But I think if you go in with that understanding that it is a proper expansion, it's not a side mission or extra things, or I suppose the version 2 is just quality of life stuff, but it's extends the end game. Literally makes the end game bigger, if I'm honest, than the main game. Content plans. Going forward, so what I'm going to be doing in terms of content, basically is kind of, I want to do a couple of things. I'll obviously, as we do the Friday Facts, I'll still be doing them. I'll still do the read-through, trying to give the commentary on it as well, because the commentary isn't speculative. The way I'm now doing the videos, the speculation is at the end. And what I'll be replacing the speculation with is essentially my reactions, because most of the stuff I think that will be revealed from now on, I should hopefully, by the time it is revealed, I will have played it, because I now have beta access. Everyone at the event has beta access, and we're still able to give feedback. That's kind of one of the purposes of it. Obviously, it'll change. This is one of the things with being a beta, that they might tweak some recipes, or I don't know, rebalance some things, or do little tweaks like that. Maybe like health and stuff for the new enemies, or it's that type of stuff. I'm sure will change. So I'm going to try and do guides and stuff, but it'll be my style. As I've said on a lot of my things, I don't really do the whole, this is the best way to play. I'm probably going to give recommendations as to which planet I think you should do in which order and why, but more as explaining the planet, and therefore why I think it's, I don't know, number 1 or number 2 or number 3 in the order to go to. So in order to do that, I need to play it all through, because I've literally done Fulgora, and even there, it's mostly about learning and kind of bootstrapping something together to get the science pack. There'll be all that type of stuff as ancillary. That won't be the Friday Facts videos. The Friday Facts videos will be my reactions to whatever they're talking about. I will probably also, now whether it's separate videos or part of those, go back and look at the previous Friday Facts, and I don't know, it kind of depends on what the Friday Facts are, whether I can link back to saying, well, these are the 5 Friday Facts that were also about this same topic, and then give my feelings on the systems that they introduced. I think that might be quite interesting. That might well be separate videos, though. I could do one gigantic. What I will do, this is all, as if you're into the community at all, you will have seen that there is an embargo in terms of content, and it will be a week before the game that we can actually talk about like systems and mechanics and stuff like that. So it'll all be my feelings, my reactions, whether I liked it, all of which will be honest. I'm just going to give you my honest feedback, or impressions rather. So there's that. I say other things I will be doing. I'll do a video about this actual blog posting, but also with a wrapper around it, because I have a feeling it's a little incoherent what I've been doing. Blog post style, talking about the actual event itself and what we kind of did, how it was organised, all that sort of stuff, just to give you the skinny and clue you all in. So those are the kind of content plans. I'm sure there'll be other stuff. My restriction, as always, is the fact that I have a full-time job. So, unlike a lot of content creators, I can't sit there for a week and record a video. If I do that, it means I'm on holiday, or I'm, in dereliction of my duty to my job, you see. So I'll get evenings and weekends, and this is the thing, because Space Age is so big, I'm mostly going to be playing Space Age rather than making videos about it. So I'm afraid my stuff will be probably smaller scale than what you'll see out of a lot of content creators, and I'll probably be still posting stuff, post-release. One of the things I guess to note on the NDA is they did also make a request not to talk about Aquilo and the actual end game until after the game was released. So in other words, that week, to sort of reserve those. I'm pretty sure I've said this already, but I will be respecting that. So I will not be talking about Aquilo. I guess, is it a spoiler in the sense that it is called Aquilo? I don't think that's a spoiler, because we saw it on the music sheet and they wouldn't change it at that later date, and that's pretty much what we know. But that final planet, and then what your end game is. So in the same way that we have an end game at the moment, there will obviously be an end game, but I'm not going to talk about what that is or what it involves or how it works. Not least of all because I haven't encountered it, and with the game expansion being so big, there's a possibility I may not encounter it until after it's released. The other thing I will do, so what I will set up for streaming, as I mentioned before, I have a deadline that is on the Wednesday after the game releases, and that's going to heavily restrict what I can do. I can't just skip out of work early or anything like that, because I say we have a deadline on the Wednesday. So I will be doing some streaming on the Monday and Tuesday. It may be of the order of an hour or something like that. I'd like to co-stream it. I'd like to, what is it called, like stream on both YouTube and Twitch. I'd like to start doing that. So that might be where I kind of launch that, although I'll probably do some tests beforehand. But yeah, the sort of plan is that version 1, I take the version 1 farewell series, I make sure I get that done before the version 2 releases. But in the background, one of the things I would do, I will prep a save so that it is ready for the new content. And I'll probably try, if I'm competent enough and remember, to do a poll on the community posts and basically ask which planet you want me to go to. Which planet you want to see first, because I can't see, you would literally have to be a speedrunner, I think, and of course a lot of them were at the event, in order to get to, if it releases at say 12 o'clock, I'll be streaming at midday, which a lot of releases do. I guess it could go at 9 o'clock, let's say 9 o'clock, 9 a.m, and I work, I start streaming at 6 or something. That's like 9 hours, is it? Maths. No, it must be 7 hours. Whatever it is. That in itself, that's a current achievement in the game, completing it in 8 hours. And although you don't need to complete it, getting to the planet, on your own with, the tougher biters and what have you, I think is not doable. So hopefully, but also you may not want to do it if you don't want any spoilers, but hopefully I'll be able to do a bit of a stream saying, right, well, this is the planet you voted on, and that's the one we're going to go to, and let you take a look at it and sort of show you some of the gameplay on that planet just for an hour or two. And then maybe, the next day, do one of the other planets, and then the next day, do one of the other planets. And they'll just be like hour-long streams just to give you that sample of what they are. And then from the Thursday onwards, when I'm on holiday, we can do proper streaming and pick up that series and see how far we can get in the few days off I've got. So yeah, that's the sort of plan with the stream now. Set a save up and go to one of the planets in the first stream. So that's a great advantage out of this. But yes, SpaceX, I still haven't really decided. It's very dependent on whether I complete the version 1 one. If I literally complete it and there's like a couple of weeks left, or literally a week left or something before Space Age comes out, I might just do Satisfactory or something instead, you know, just to take a look at that and what's changed in it, really. Because I don't think there's much point doing a single SpaceX stream, you know.
Roundup.
But yes, so I guess in summary then, event's been great. I am now, you know, really looking forward to playing it properly. Did really enjoy what I played of the new stuff, but as I say, I think that caveat of you need to be prepared that you're going to have to do a big, you know, or well designed or however it is build in order to really get to the new planets and have a good time on them, because you can get there pretty quickly, but you probably don't want to. And particularly for new players, I really would recommend playing through the base game before you try Space Age. You know, play it through version 2, so maybe give things like quality and elevated rails a go, do a Space Age afterwards, you know. So that's it from me, I think. If you have been watching, hope you've enjoyed this rambling set of maybe individual videos or a single thing, I don't know. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it, and you might consider coming back for another one. I've been Trismegistus. This has been the Factorio LAN Party blog. Weird thing to say. Thanks for watching. Cheers.